Today, we're going to take a deep dive, look behind the scenes of Reiki energy. What is it? Where does it come from? I'm working with the members of the Hellfire Remote Viewing Group as the project manager, and they were tasked to look at Dr. Usui when he first experienced Reiki. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. Today, I'm joined with Don, Susan, and Coral. The rest of the members are unavailable. They'll be submitting their sessions remotely. But we're going to take a deep dive into the data that the viewers brought back today and see what it all means. See what exactly is this mysterious healing energy called Reiki? I'm going to do a quick check-in with everybody. Don, starting with you. How are you today, my friend?
I'm feeling good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to have you here. Overall, your thoughts on this project. What was your experience like?
Well, I prepared a little bit of a video I can show if you're ready for that.
We'll jump into that in a minute. I'm just getting just an overall feel real quick, just check-ins overall. Good
Uh, this
sessions
pro
for you.
this project was here and there, all over the place.
Yeah.
I think I was getting scattered perceptions, a little bit of the
Hmm.
Reiki energy, a little bit of the location, Mount
Hmm.
Karuma.
Yeah.
Um, and so I tried to, the neat thing about remote viewing is you just put down what you get.
Yeah.
And I don't worry about it. So I've got a lot of information here that seems all over the place, but when I found out what the tasking was all about, there was indeed some stuff that seemed to be
Yeah.
talking about energy, and that's pretty cool.
You had energy, and you clearly had the waterfall at one point too, and looked like Dr. Usui in there as well. It was a great session. Thank you, Don.
Oh, sure.
Coral, quick check-in with you. How are you today, and what were your thoughts on this project?
I'm good. It's always such a privilege to work on Hellfire because we get to experience these amazing
Yeah,
targets. This was extraordinary. It was so extraordinary. I had no idea what we were talking about. I still having trouble metabolizing it and trying to
yeah.
understand what I went through. But I actually had a dream about it, and I
Mhm.
dreamt I was dying, but I didn't die. I
Yeah,
shared the dream with you, but it really came through to me. So it was very
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. You had an experience, and Henny, who's not here, she when she found out what the target was, I believe she practices Reiki as well. She says, "No wonder I kept falling asleep." She says, "Usually when I do Reiki, I get very tired, and every time I try to do this session, I fell asleep during the session."
Mm.
So I thought that was a
Very
neat correlation
interesting.
for her. Yeah.
Very
And Susan,
interesting.
Susan is our newest member to the Hellfire Remote Viewing Club. Susan, how are you? And what were your thoughts on this project?
Good, thank you. It was really interesting. I was kind of baffled through it, but it was a really enjoyable experience, and it was very energetic. And yeah, it was quite a revelation to find out what it was too. So
Yeah, and you
it
had
was
some great data
interesting.
that you brought back. I enjoyed going through your session as well. Overall, this project, I mean, in the past, I've done a lot of we look at more darker targets sometimes.
Mm,
I've always had an interest in the technology. I've done a couple targets that have been, ET tech. We looked at Roswell when I was a project manager. We looked at Strieber's implant, which was a real fun one. But it took
mm.
us on some of those more dark rabbit holes on some of the data, just more intense. And this one, I chose this. Reiki has been in and out of my life for a long time, but I've been on a real big push with Reiki over the last, I'd say, 2 years right now. It's really helped me in so many ways. And I thought, wow, I get to work with these amazing remote viewers. What a neat target to look at
Mm.
this energy itself. Specifically when it first started, or I'd say the rebirth of Reiki when it came back with Dr. Usui. Because part of me was wanted to know how much of this is what actually happened, and how much of this is just the lore behind the story. How much of this is just fancy marketing? I always
Mm.
wonder about that as well. Um, so we were tasked to take a look at that, and I'll go over my tasking bias in a moment, but I wanted everybody to have a positive takeaway from this. My hope was that you would have some kind of positive experience with this session. So,
It's
uh,
always fun to see what you get and then like the little bits of hints that your
Mhm.
subconscious is giving you about,
Yeah.
the target, which I found a couple of hints in mine. I thought about Reiki. It was
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's neat when you have those little clues, where sometimes the information that comes through is for you as the viewer. Even if it's not necessarily on target, I think there's times where we get information that is meaningful to us, regardless of how accurate the data is. And those are the experiences that I love about remote viewing. What's the takeaway? What am I learning from it? So I think that's a
Exactly.
beautiful thing. I have a presentation I'm going to go through. There was a lot of data here to comb through. As a
Oh,
project manager with multiple viewers, as you all know, it's a lot of work. So I tried to limit it to 2 sessions per person, and just go through and try to pull out the highlights of it. So I'll share what I have. This is by no means an exhaustive analysis of everything that's there. For those of you that are watching this, we'll have things available. You'll be able to go through all the data and draw deeper conclusions. I would love to hear anyone else's thoughts out there in the realm of the internet, as well on this. So let me pull up my presentation. I'm going to share. We'll do the whole screen here. And okay,
yeah. There we go.
here we go. Remote viewing, Dr. Usui Reiki, a project by the Hellfire Remote Viewing Club. These were our viewers here. We had 7 viewers working on this: Coral, Henny, Dimmy, Daz, Darby, Don, and Susan. Susan, we don't have your picture yet up on the website, so I wasn't able to pull it, but we'll get it up there for the next project. And this was our tasking here. Reiki energy as it affects Master Mikao Usui, March 1922, Mount Karuma, Japan. The tasking was the viewer will describe the experience of Dr. Usui as he first received or interacted with Reiki energy at the end of his 21-day fast on Mount Karama, Japan in March of 1922. The subtasks: describe the Reiki energy to include its function, purpose, and intelligence. Describe the impact the energy had on Dr. Usui, and what can the viewer learn from the energy? And that's the one I wanted, just for you guys, just to see what experiences you have from that. A little bit of background here. This is an excerpt. This is an excerpt taken from Reiki: The Healing Touch, first and second degree manual by William Lee Rand. He's one of the leading authorities on Reiki in the world. So with this in mind, he prepared for death in February of 1922. He went to Mount Karama to fast and meditate until he passed to the next world. In addition, we know there's a small waterfall on Mount Karama where even today people go to meditate. This meditation involves standing under the waterfall and allowing water to strike the flow over the top of the head, practice that is said to activate the crown chakra. Japanese Reiki masters think that Usui Sensei may have used this meditation as part of his practice. In any case, as time passed, he became weaker and weaker. It was now March 1922, and at midnight of the 21st day, powerful light suddenly entered his mind through the top of his head, and he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. This caused him to fall unconscious. As the sun rose, he awoke and realized that whereas before he had felt very weak and near death, he was now filled with an extremely enjoyable state of vitality that he had never experienced before. Miraculous type of high-frequency spiritual energy had displaced his normal consciousness and replaced it with an amazingly new level of awareness. He experienced himself as being the energy and consciousness of the universe, and that special state of enlightenment he had sought had given to him as a gift. I really was drawn to this experience, because Dr. Usui resonates with me as a truth seeker. When you look into his history and his background, he's a well-educated man in a lot of different areas. And he would leave different practices because he was continuing to search for that truth. I know I've had conversations with many of you, and we're all searching for that answer, right? That spiritual truth, that spiritual understanding, that connection to the divine. And he was continually searching for it. And he tried varying different practices. He studied a lot of ancient texts. He was studying in a monastery, and he was going through these meditations. And finally, in a state of desperation, and just at the end of his rope, he says, you know what? There's this one form of meditation I can do, but in order to do it, to reach this level of enlightenment, I need to be willing to die in order to achieve it. Meaning there's the possibility that you might not survive this because you go up in the mountains and you just fast until you either starve to death or you have the experience. So that's what he was going through as he was trying to have an experience. He was starving himself. He was on the mountain. He's meditating, prepared for death, but hoping to have some kind of enlightening experience. And when you look at ancient shamanic traditions, there's varying ways that they achieve these altered states of consciousness. Some of it is through extreme fasting, some of it was through bloodletting, some of it's through sleep deprivation, dancing, rhythm. There's a lot of different ways that you're able to achieve this. Some of it's through the plant medicine as well. And this seems to be how Dr. Usui made his connection. And it just resonated strongly with me, understanding that desire to want to know more.
Excellent.
Here's my own bias. I'm not sure what to expect from this data. I'm a Reiki teacher myself and directly experienced some of the benefits and capabilities of the healing energy. However, I wonder about the validity of the stories and the history surrounding Reiki. My hope is that viewers will report on a beautifully benevolent energy that will offer all of us some unique insights and growth. However, I also wonder if the story is exaggerated and embellished, and viewers may report simply about a man meditating on a mountain. I would like this to be a positive, uplifting, inspiring, and learning experience for the viewers. However, my overall intention is that it is more important that the viewers bring back an accurate description of what actually happened as opposed to my preconceived ideas and or any possible embellishments that have been added to the story over time. So I'm sharing this word for word because this is what was given to the viewers as part of the feedback. I wrote these 2 paragraphs before I tasked the target out. I had when I was planning my target for this. Um, As trained me in to get this information out, so we have that understanding. Because then what it does for me is it helps me to separate my own emotions, my own desires from the actual information taken directly from the target. I didn't want the viewers to take what my overlay was. So this is part of my process in separating myself from the target. So the observable themes, there was definitely energy. It sounded like there was some technology coming through there. We saw some elements of locations and life. I'm going to talk a lot about the energy and touch on the technology as I go through this data here. And then I have quick summaries here of everybody's data. So I pulled out the highlights, and by all means, when you guys feel free to chime in if I'm missing something or something you want me to highlight. I just tried to pull, there was just such a wealth of data. And as we're listening to me go through these highlights here, I think you'll start to notice some themes and some overlay amongst the viewers. So Coral had some themes of man-made, technological, and functioning. Emits should that be pure? I think a pure like frequency, not a purr. I don't think it was a cat. Pure like frequency.
No, it was actually purr
Was it purr?
because
Okay, it was purr.
cats emit a healing frequency.
Oh, I stand corrected. Okay.
Definitely purr.
Purr. Okay. All right. That makes sense then. Thank you for clarifying. Technologically superior, does something big and powerful, connected to an event, a portal-like circular structure, and we had several portal data on here as well. A big autonomous structure, scientific and alchemical act that changes things forever, connected to a far-off base, which is layered and antique, streaked with filaments, happened after growth of spore-like filaments which connect, layer, and constrict. And these themes here I see consistently throughout a lot of other sessions here. The spore-like filaments were very interesting. There's other data from, I think, Henny's session that has a lot on these spores that I think, as we'll see, it sounds like it could be nanotechnology, or it also reminds me of really like a psychedelic mushroom experience in the spores of the mushrooms that are coming out there, which in my opinion, is also a form of technology. I'm of the mindset that biology is an advanced form of technology that's spread throughout the universe. We just don't recognize it as such yet. So I think that we have that merging of technology and biology here, which leads to this experience. And who knows, maybe Dr. Usui, and this is just coming out, maybe he was eating mushrooms when he was up on Mount Karuma. I didn't even think of that as I'm looking at this now. A little bit more from Coral. There was a structure like a base. It felt worm-like, geometrically and metally metally and curved, felt like a mirror, but also an entrance. And again, Coral, you're not the only one that had that mirror data as well, and this portal and this opening and this base. So there's some kind of structure and that I think is off-world that's related to this. Reminds of star cities, a vehicle or craft that moves, fish shape with wings, spiral corkscrew movements created in the mirror structure, and it doesn't go where it was intended. And Coral had a tragic end here. And Coral, when we get to your piece here, I'd like to hear more about that tragic end. Okay, Darby worked this target as well, and he also had a man-made object or structure, city-like structures with lights and a dome over top, triangular hard metallic, a ramp, symmetrical 5 to 6 pointed shape with an eye in the center and pods on the ends. He had eggs, DNA, embryo, tiny blood vessels. It was not on Earth. It was reddish, rocky, barren with volcanic activity. He felt he wasn't supposed to be there. It was built by several minds or groups working together. Visual of several larva-shaped brains linked together. That was really cool. Tall white structure, a man-made rocket, a feeling of Mars. Technology that he felt was not advanced by our own standards. Shiny, reflective, circular object, long, hollow inside, ribbed structure. Brackets were holding it, cords or wires inside like fiber optics. For data transmission, gyroscope of flames, radiation, or EMF. And he saw insect eyes looking back at him at one point. So again, we have this structure, this off-world piece, and the technology. And I think the several minds linked together was curious as well, if, possibly tapping into some kind of universal consciousness. And I think my impression of Darby's data was that he was getting into the origins, as per the tasking, where did this come from? The origins of where this came from. And I think one of the themes I'm seeing, some civilization collectively, I think, created this energy for whatever reason and projected it outwards. And I think that's what we're seeing here. I'd love to know more about it as we go through. Daz had some awesome sessions as well. He had energy and spiral-like movement, a vertical energy shaft, which to me feels just like Reiki as it's coming down. Dust, like microscopic particles in motion, again, similar to the spores that the other viewers have been reporting already. There was a gravity distortion. He had an angelic feel, love, inspired, and creativity, movement over space and time, waves, sonic or frequency, microwave-like nuclear energy, a communication wave, physically impacting life and bodies. We know these are all things that Reiki does. It was esoteric, high energy or advanced energy and energy manipulation. Body soaks up the particles like a light shower. It's mind altering. Again, that sounds like Reiki. It's technology, movement, communication, interaction. So again, Daz is now having technology pieces. Space, time, gravity, dimensions, all being manipulated. The body vibrates differently after, higher pitch, less dense and solid. When you get attuned to Reiki, what it's doing is it's balancing your chakras to harmonize with the Reiki energy so you can then channel it and use Reiki. So that's interesting that he's picking up on that. There's a quantum shift in teleportation, levels of different energy used. And what's interesting, Reiki has 3 levels. You have your Reiki 1, your Reiki 2, and then your master level Reiki as well. Each comes with its own attunement. A little bit more from Daz. He saw these large 8-foot angelic beings. They were energy shifting and non-physical. They weren't fully in our dimension. It was an old esoteric feel with advanced sound, vibration, waves, energy, frequencies, and harmonics. Large, smooth, domed, metallic surface. There we are again with that domed surface. Subspace watching from above. And then he also had a curved structure like a UAP. Dimmy had sandstorm, cloudy, and dusty. Again, those tiny particles. Fairy dust, twisting, spiraling. She also saw Mars or a planet and moon. Lava, like Darby had. Primordial, blowing energy. Rocket, nanofiber, nano laser. Dune or a sandworm. Tubular, deserted area. Steaming energy. And panspermia seeds. Again, panspermia is the idea that spores or seeds were projected throughout the universe, and wherever they landed, then it became the seeds of life. And I'm reminded of Terence McKenna's work where he was talking about the mushroom intelligence, where the mushroom will interact with the human mind and it absorbs that experience of human consciousness. And then eventually its spores will go out through the universe and it continues to learn and then relay that information back to the higher consciousness of whatever that mushroom intelligence is. So we're seeing evidence of a lot of this. It's fascinating. More from Dimi. Laser type of force, natural, atoms, like a Tesla engine. Excuse me. Pulse, electric volts. It was soothing, a need to recover, to restitute. She sketched a human in a bed here. And we know, number one, Dr. Usui was very sick right before he received Reiki, but also Reiki is used in a lot of situations for healing. While people are in bed, it's used in hospitals to treat cancer patients regularly. An energetic beam hits man-made. And again, that's exactly what it does. A pain in my chest, frightened, electric, charged, and powerful. A round, flat disc-like UFO, a meteorite. Mechanical element fits together like gears. A spaceship like Oumuamua, round. A mother brain, instant downloads to their mother. Mirror, electric beaming out, connected, luminous projection from above, an observer. Again, a lot of this sounds like the experience of receiving Reiki. It's coming in through your crown chakra. Where is it coming from? Possibly from a mother brain. We've all had those download experiences as well. And for me, working with Reiki, that's a lot what it feels like as I go through my process. Don's summary here: a door, a gate, a transition to a new place, which we're seeing as a common theme. Ghost energy and spirit, shooting or projecting downward and upward, energy control, radiation, industrialized, powerful, natural. Radiation settled on the ground, up high, possibly a vehicle landing on the ground, from the stars, sandflies, insects, or insectoids. That's our second reference to insects. Precisely aimed, directed energy, mesmerized, dangerous, guarded, amplified. Biologicals representing as human, but not. That's interesting. The viewer felt he was deliberately blocked. Very curious. Again, Don's getting a very similar theme with this energy, the direction that it travels, other beings that might be there supporting it. Energy control, I know with Reiki, it gave me a sense of control over a lot of my intuitive abilities here, the ability to turn it off, the ability to direct it. So I think Don is spot on with everything that he has here. Henny here, again, works with energy. Another reference to nanotechnology. It was alien, foreign, potentially parasitic and toxic, which is interesting. Spreading and flying, manufactured, engineered on a small scale. Brain targeting the nasal delivery. It was growing and embedding. It was cobwebbed, overtaking, suppressing original bio, hallucinogenic, altered biochemical, altered neural. Viewer felt drowsy, numb, mental haze. Signals transcending, collecting, descending, grounding, man-made, energized particles, energetic feel, chi energy, heightened energetic area, charged, something heavy hit the earth, restricted access. Again, I think she nailed it. My thoughts are with and I can't speak for Henny, and I saw this in a couple of sessions across the viewers, some of the nefarious stuff, and the technology. I'll give a caveat. All viewers knew that I was the one that was tasking the target. And I do wonder if some of the tech stuff was running in the background because I've had a couple targets that have been related to the nanotechnology. So I just want to put that out there as a possibility. But the fact that it's so consistent amongst everybody, I think that there's a technological piece to this. And I think this fits a lot of the things that we're seeing here. This was energetically nice, gentle, light energetics to it, creates a nice sensation within the chest or heart area. Energy was moving across a landscape. It was rough, rocky, dusty terrain. There were dark skies. Another reference to Mars. Vehicle in motion, worm type thing. That's another worm type thing. Snake type movements. Something is driving, directing, guiding the energy. An energetic carrier transmitted, targeted towards a goal. Susan's summary here, man-made.
Sorry, Dennis,
Go
that was
ahead.
mine. Sorry to interrupt you. That was my
Oh,
the one you
okay. Thank you. I
Thinking, oh my God,
made a
we got
mistake
exactly
there,
the
but
same.
I'm glad you corrected me on that one. Yeah, so this was Susan's data here. Is this also yours? Did I transpose them? Man-made, tubular, dense man-made structure, metallic.
No, they're both mine. Yeah.
They're both yours. Okay. Sorry about that, Susan. Life form connected to motion and energy. Motion and energy felt smooth, ascending, outwards, ongoing, and linear. Life was calm, controlled, and centered, and energetic particles. So just to clarify and circle back here, this page here was Susan's data here. Sorry about that typo, friends. Okay. So there was some overlay with this, obviously, which I've been touching on as I went through this. We had a clear theme of repeating energetics. There were these tiny particles or spores. There was a structure, something mirrored or reflective that also may have been an entryway. We had biological life, angelic or subspace life, Mars and or a foreign body, a craft in the air. Yours also had aspects of the waterfall and energetics affecting a biological life. The energetics were coming down from above, witnessed by an observer. The energy had fine particulates in it, descending as particles, spores, nanotechnology, or atoms. I'm sorry, described as. The energy has both natural and technological feels to it. There is a structure affiliated with the data, man-made and possibly off-world. Several references were made to Mars. This structure has some type of mirrored or reflective surface that may be a doorway. The energy is connected to a collective of minds. There is another structure, possibly a craft, associated with this target that is up above. Just my thoughts on this real quick. If I could summarize this, it's neat. I did all this analysis, putting things together, reviewing everyone's data. It's not until I have these conversations that everything starts to really make sense in my mind. This has always been part of my process. Um, but really looking at this, what the data suggests is that this energy is a form of technology that came from some type of other intelligence, possibly existing in a subspace kind of realm that may be located on Mars, that was then projected towards us in a variety of different technological spore-like ways. Really, um, I'm having a bunch of different feelings about that, all positive, but when I learned about Reiki, it's universal life force energy, right? But if this is a technological projection from our neighbor at Mars, I mean, our planet's very connected to Mars, I think, in our forgotten history. I think that's a beautiful, loving thing, and I'd love to explore that more. Why did that get sent this way? Maybe in a future project to follow up on this. I forget whose this is. Don, is this you? There was the mirror or entryway. I forgot to put your name there. Okay, this was just a clip from Don's here. This data piece here. Yeah, I'm sorry. I did not edit this. This was sucking in a black hole, the mushroom experience in DMT. That slide should have been taken out because I was taking collages of everybody's energy here is what I pulled. So these were some of the highlights of corals, just descriptions of energy, of looks like the craft or the portal, illumination. Just wanted to give some snapshots of everybody's. Darby had this as his energy here. This is the tube-like structure with the nanotechnology. These are Daz's drawings of energy here. More from Daz with the energy. He had the harmonics and sonics, a strong feel of physically impacting or penetrating the life in the bodies. And that's what Reiki energy does, is it impacts the bodies. He said he felt strangely good. Demi had a lot of these portal type of drawings, the swirling energy. Very cool to see Demi's drawings. She also had the mother brain, the instant downloads. She had an AOL of praying. Don had the artificial illumination. I liked his ghost-like or ghost energy spirit, the nameless void to elsewhere. Don, is elsewhere a nod to The Giver? Have you ever read The Giver?
No.
Elsewhere is where they in The Giver, it was a dystopian story under the facade of a utopian society, and they really didn't have any more emotions. So when somebody wasn't conforming and didn't fit the bill, basically, they would be sent off to elsewhere. And everybody believed elsewhere was paradise, but really elsewhere was just an execution, basically. So I thought that was interesting. You know,
Oh,
it was the afterlife. They were sent to elsewhere to the afterlife. So I thought that was interesting that you use that. Um, so
yeah, I
yeah,
felt
AOL
like it
visit.
was this ghost energy, spirit energy was coming from a void, like the blackness. The
Yeah,
sort of like what's inside your mind when you close your eyes. That
yeah,
kind of you know nameless
very cool,
place.
very cool. Don had some more sketches of energy here with path and projection. It's directed in a controlled, precise way. I mean, this looks like is this technology here that Don's drawing here? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's mine. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Now, Henny had it coming in through the nose. She had a person in it looks like a spacesuit here, but what I think is important is the signal here, the transmission coming out, which, with the signal of Reiki. And this sketch in the middle, this little spore type of thing. Again, it brings me back to the mushroom or something similar with the spores. More drawings of it here. She has some natural settings here. And then she really, did some deep drawings of what these spore or fungal things look like here. She had a reference to the Garden of Eden. And then Susan had some energy here. She was seeing luminous, diffused, wispy, something within a dark surrounding. I can't read that word. It's area. That's what it said.
That
Okay.
area. Yeah.
Getting the feeling like something is driving it, maneuvering it side to side, snaking forward type of motion of the reference to the snake. Because energy doesn't really travel in a straight line, right? It winds and it curves. Really smooth, even moving motion energy, like a slow, even circular motion, followed by an outward, smooth, extending away, motion energy onwards, outwards, continuing. An event horizontal circular motion to an outwards extending away, linear ongoing motion. It was emitting frequencies. She moved to the water. Obviously, there was a waterfall there as well. That was part of the initial experience. More energy from Susan here, lightly energetic, horizontal aspects, circular and ongoing outwards motion. She had some colors here. It was controlled. It was light. It felt nice. The experience of it was nice. A lot of great data here. Just talking about how it's a gentle energy. Now, I thought this was interesting. I pulled this just as a side note here. Oh, hold on. The Hayashi and Takata. This is just a reference for me to remember here. Corey, you were talking about grabbing a bulb like, where is it at here? Opening out. The declaration of war or failure, war in the heavens. It felt nuclear. What's interesting about this, as the history of Reiki was being uncovered, um, you had Madame Takata in Hawaii um, who learned Reiki from Hayashi, who was in Japan. Hayashi was traveling in Hawaii, and he was asked to gather intelligence by the Japanese government for World War II. Hayashi refused, and he ended his life through seppuku, which is the ritualistic suicide to maintain his honor. And after that, obviously, Pearl Harbor was bombed, and then the nuclear bomb was dropped on Japan. The two nuclear bombs were dropped on Japan. So I think you were picking up on that aspect of the history of Reiki, Coral, that history piece there, which I always thought was it's dark, but it's a beautiful thing how he was walking that path, and he says, I'm not going to contribute to even though my government's calling me a traitor, I'm not going to contribute to the war effort, and he ended his own life over it. So fascinating sessions, everybody. Like I said, there's a lot of data to comb through, but I hope the themes stood out, and I'm amazed right now at really trying to process this as I'm talking about it. Before we get into everybody's individual session summaries, I just want to go through again and just get your reactions to this analysis that we just went through. Don, I'll come back to you. What are your thoughts?
Ah, it's real interesting. I have my own sort of spin on this data, this technology thing. I sort of think it's more like a living energy. Okay.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned a biological connection with technology,
Yeah.
but um, I sort of get the impression that there's a lot more going on in this universe than
Hmm.
we can imagine, and
Yes.
there can be, um, you know, energy that is like intelligent that we don't even know about, but
Hmm.
maybe occupies the same space, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. I agree, Don. I think that's a huge possibility. There's so much that we don't know and are trying to understand, and we may not have the vocabulary for whatever the quote truth is,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we're using the vocabulary we have to describe a concept that is so foreign to us. That's a strong possibility. Yeah, nice point, Don. Coral, your thoughts and reactions?
Um, I think that it's so when I was talking about the war, I was talking about the war in heaven. And
Hmm,
it really
okay.
felt like when I say like man-made, I call it man-made. It's like a technology that's been given to us, but then it was
Okay.
taken away from us.
Yeah.
It's given to us and then taken away. So it's very hard to access. Not everybody can access it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that thing
Yeah.
with Reiki, in the beginning, it was a secret technology that was passed from one to the other, and it has
Yeah.
to do with frequencies. But it
Hmm.
wasn't it wasn't just free and readily accessible to everyone.
Yeah, it was some people theorize that Dr. Usui learned about it because he read a lot of the ancient texts that have uh, all the stuff that has been forgotten and no longer passed on, other than
Forgot,
through the
hidden
monastery.
in plain sight. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So very interesting. Thank you, Coral. Susan, your thoughts and takeaways.
I'm just interested in like how much correlated between the different sessions, and
Yeah.
I think I'd assumed when I'd seen the feedback that I was kind of mainly focused in on the event, but I did have some technological things that I couldn't place. So it's kind of interesting now to see that everyone's had this, and I've got maybe a different feeling about where some of it sits now.
Yeah. A lot of it was as I was getting the sessions in. I struggled at first to see how it all related to the target, the tasking itself. I really had to take my time and say, okay, where is this going? Does this target not exist? Are they just collecting random things? It was a tough one because it wasn't. There were elements that some of you had of a guy, of a waterfall, of a person getting, but a lot of this was this abstract, like minds, particle energy, things that maybe it's Reiki, maybe it's not. But now that you see the whole big picture, I think everybody was spot on target there. It's fascinating to see. Okay, let's go through. If you want to each give a brief summary, Don, you have something prepared. I'll start with you, and then we can
Yeah.
go through and look at your
Okay. So
summaries here.
let's see if we can share the screen.
Hmm.
Share that, and then I need to enable share sound. Okay. Oh, so you should be hearing this. Let me know if you're not.
Yep,
You seeing
I
the
see your screen.
Reiki energy there? Okay, here we
Yep.
go. Okay. In Dennis's tasking background information, he talks about a meditation that involves standing under a waterfall and allowing the water to strike the top of your head, which I guess would look something like this. It's believed that Master Usui used this meditation to receive the Reiki energy that Dennis is inquiring about. That meditation has a curious correspondence to this sketch, where I show a figure walking into something like a doorway with drizzle coming down and
Mhm.
surrounded by blackness. Some of my perceptions are a mix of this and that, and it's a real challenge to figure out how to illustrate the overall concept. The drizzling lines might be water coming down on his head, and also his eyes would have been closed because of the pounding water, so That would be like eyes closed darkness, and I wrote dark place. And I indicated there was a transition at this place. So this might be confirming the legend about him getting his Reiki energy under the waterfall. Interesting. In terms of describing the Reiki energy itself, I sensed the subject was overcome by something. And when I later posed the question, what is the major gestalt? I got energy that is directed in a controlled, precise way. I don't know how Reiki is used, but these perceptions seem to describe the energy as a signal directed outward, like in a directed projection path. Another perception describes the energy aspect as precisely directed. And there was a concept here which I listed as being similar to magnification. I find this interesting. My subconscious is hinting that this energy, Reiki, is magnified energy we already have to begin with. It's somehow magnified or lensed to be more powerful. Later on, I got a visual of this focused outward energy, but I didn't sense anything producing it or channeling or directing it. How do you illustrate energy coming from nowhere and being directed by nothing? I chose to illustrate it as some sort of coil that was projecting energy very precisely, and it was aimed at surfaces that were affected by it. This energy I described in my AOLs as ghost-like, ghost energy and spirit energy, and somehow it related to the nameless void. I guess that's the mysterious aspect of Reiki. In terms of the primary subject, only the perception of a medicine man came to mind. I don't know anything about Master Usui or how he is viewed in the Reiki community. But if he's highly regarded, the notion of a tribal chief might be somewhat appropriate if you consider the Reiki community as a sort of tribe. While the tasking didn't ask for location information, my subconscious seemed to report some anyway. Now, not knowing anything about Mount Karuma, I found these pictures and information on the internet. Apparently, this is a rather famous site for meditation, and there has been a temple building there since the 8th century. My perception of red walls might be appropriate. I also got a sense that there was a lot of chiseled stonework at this location, and I sensed an overlook, a ravine, and an overhanging in my group of AOLs. I sensed there was some sort of writing that seemed strange to me, like glyphs. I couldn't find many photos of signage at Mount Karuma. When I asked what's important about this writing or the glyphs that I perceived, I got back involvement. And that seems accurate. Reading signs to know what to do or where to go. And so there you have it. Those are my session highlights for this target. And allowing the water to strike the top of your... Okay. There we go. Back to you, Dennis.
No, that was great. I love that you connected some of those other pieces, especially the red building, even that doorway that was in the red building as well was, I think, is very telling and could be
You
possibly.
know what? I never thought of that. That's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool, really cool. Great presentation, Don. Thank you.
Sure.
Coral, let's move on and take a look at your data here, your highlights.
Okay, so I have a lot of things open on my desk. Bear with me.
Sure.
After I finished doing this target, I had a dream. And I dreamt that I was dying, that my organs were closing down, and that there was nothing I could do. So I go to an Ayurvedic practitioner and she reads my pulse and she says, "You're dying." So I go to another energy healer who actually uses frequencies, and he has a machine that comes from Hungary called an eductor, the Shaw eductor. And he's ill, so he's using it. And I say to him, "Well, can you give me the plasma ball?" There's this Bookie 2 that he uses has a plasma ball that emits healing frequencies. Then I go to the mountains where there's snow and very beautiful homes, houses, buildings in the snow. And I ask if there's a doctor here. I go into one of the homes and there's a mirror. And I look at where I've bumped my head, and there's a big spreading circle on my head with one line that's going right up the side of my forehead into my hairline.
Wow.
I say to the doctor, "Can we stop this spreading line? Because that's why I'm dying." In the next scene, I'm outside. A friend's inside, and she gives a shout saying, "No, she's as white as a sheet. Your daughter's passed away." So we rush back in, and there are two little girls on the bed, and one of them's a little blonde girl in a white dress, like uh, um, uh, ceremonial clothes. But I go to her, and she's breathing, and she opens her eyes. So if she died, she'd woken up. So that was my subconscious trying to make sense
Yeah,
of
processing everything.
of all those things. So I
Is
thought that was extraordinary, the
is that a
dream.
normal process for you, Coral? Do you have dreams that
Yes,
finish
I do.
processing your targets? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I often,
that's really
if it's
cool.
a target that's too much for my conscious mind to deal with, I'll have a dream. I'll often, get the conclusion in the dream. But
Yeah,
I'm very seriously involved with dream work. And
yeah,
I keep a dream diary. And I normally tell all my remote viewing students to make sure, and I do that in my
right.
magical work as well.
Yeah,
But I'll just share a couple of them. I've just collected all the drawings basically because I make sense through things visually. So I'll share what I have, and I see I can. Okay. You're looking at just a drawing there. Of course, it's very hard because I can't see what you're looking at. Um, Let me just move to my first summary. So, when I say man made, I really feel that it has been constructed, that it's not a naturally occurring thing. And I'm looking at something that's powerful, thrusting, and I'm sure that there's technology involved. So, one part's dripping downwards, another part is thrusting and strong. When I use the word enamely, I'm always talking about energy. It's like that glow. It's like a magnetic kind of energy. I have this thing that looks like a portal. So there I have it again.
mm,
Yeah, and it reoccurs a lot. I've got illumination. And by this stage of my session, I know that it's there's something about an event. Uh, and it's connected to an event. I write down somewhere in my session, this is about an event. The event feels as though it's technologically superior. So it's a technology that we don't know about. And I definitely agree with all the other people who've said it's been brought here from off planet. So it feels like an event, and it's a transformational event. Now, I've been doing a lot of work with energy healing too. I only have a basic level of Reiki, but I've been working with machines and frequencies, which is why you got the purr frequency, because I know that cats emit a healing frequency. And I've got this thing, and this is something that's transmitting. So I have the man-made's connected to an event that takes place which feels technologically superior and does something big and powerful. It feels circulating, thrusting, portal-like. It's a circular structure that punches and tears through. So there's the circular structure at the top. Then I get to this, which looks like, spreading pores.
Hmm.
There's some research that I've been doing recently about human beings having a soul that could be plasma. So we have it, it resides in our body as plasma for the time that we're in our bodies. And when we're no longer in these bodies, the plasma itself moves on. So for me, this could refer to that plasma. And as you can see, I'm trying very hard to reproduce it. And I get this as above, so below, right? In both dimensions, the earth dimension and the non-earth dimension, as above, so below. So, and again, here are the strips of plasma. Move to the event, it's connecting. So he's connected with his plasma. He's connected to the source of energy he's building.
Hmm.
And there's something crystalline about it. I keep getting like a crystalline structure charging up. And look, I have here babies grown in crystal. There's something about the crystalline structure that's linked to our plasma. We're talking about things that as humans we haven't evolved enough in our consciousness to understand.
Yeah.
It punches holes in the fabric of space. So what we have here is there's some kind of connection. What he did was he went through the two different dimensions,
Hmm.
is what my theory is. And this is rupture. That's the moment of death. Now, I do med apps. So
Hmm.
a lot, I've done a couple of times, I followed people through to death. The very last time I did it, and it was a very recent target, as I went into it, I said, no, there's something here. Or this is a near death experience, or this is LSD. So it's a psychedelic experience. So the two are very much the same, dying and psychedelics.
Yeah.
And the connections that we have with the other people, I'm absolutely sure it's coherent. So the rapture, that's rapture, not, yeah. Anyway, he's ascending,
Yeah.
thrusting, floating, suspended, but connected. We all have this, the connecting, a
Hmm.
wormhole, a tunnel connection. And here I have interdimensional travel, inception of blood into crystal. So inception of the organic into the crystalline formula. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's moving through dimensions. There you had this, you picked up on this one, scientific alchemical act with great move. It changes things forever. And it reminded me of an organic type of CERN portal. You know, the CERN portal is looking to connect dimensions. This is an organic type. So when I get to the retasking, you ask me for this. Describe the technology and talk about punches holes in the fabric of space. So there's the tunnel. It's that. And there are the plasma reaching through,
Hmm.
right? And for the technology, I have star cities. There's the mirror portal. That's the technology is something interdimensional that connects.
Yeah.
And there are places on Earth where you can step through these portals. And in many of those drawings, you see very similar things to that drawing, the illuminated mirror portal. There's if you look at the first, so it's a series of drawings that I'm trying to make sense of it. But if you look at the first drawing, it's more organic. Then I'm starting to get a technology overlay where I'm trying to conscript a plasma form into something I know and understand.
Yeah.
And but if you think about, that head there, it's a plasma. If you look at that, comparing it to that,
Hmm.
right? That's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the head, the round head. So it's coming back in a different form. I have biological streaming. They're streaming. Yeah. They're renting, they're tearing through the dimensions. It's exploration. It's very high technology. I'm sure of it. It comes from somewhere else. It was put in place here. But here, at one stage, humans were no longer given permission to use it. And it's been hidden from us. And that is where I come to my sad story. And it's the event with unintended circumstances and tragic. So if you look at the timeline, I say it's the war in heavens. Now, other remote viewers have looked at that war in heavens. Courtney's looked at it. We know that something happened in our prehistory with Earth. And we know we've done, with Darby, we did that target of the Council of Nine.
Council of Nine, yeah. Yeah, the raw
So
materials.
there has been a conflict with some kind of superior energy about this. And when I say it has a sad ending, I'm pretty sure it's that technology was put in place on Earth and it was then closed off after their war in the heavens. Yeah. There is information about this war out there, and I'm pretty sure that that's what my subconscious. And look, it's ongoing. It hasn't been resolved yet,
This is
which
Book
is
of
very
Enoch
sad.
stuff. It sounds like the war in
Yeah, it
heaven, right? Where
does.
the angels were cast
Yes,
down in the abyss, and
exactly.
and they
That's
gifted,
what
and
I
that's
think.
where they gifted man a lot of different things, right? The angels came down and they
Yes,
taught mankind
yes.
various different things, and then were punished for it.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And there's the energetic portal, my final drawing. So
Wow, beautiful.
there you go.
I'm wondering too if some of these portals are, openings through the crown or the third eye chakra points as well. I know I've done some traveling where I'm going through a snaking through a wormhole that's actually similar colors to the ones you chose as well, Coral.
Yeah.
So that could be it as well. It might not even have to be a physical portal that you walk through. It's through consciousness that we're accessing these portals.
Well, it might be your
Wow.
plasma traveling. It might be
Yeah.
that we have this
Hmm.
plasma that detaches. That would be an
Yeah.
interesting future target. I've been getting synchronously given to me information about plasma, and it's something new that I'm. But in the dream,
Yeah.
I said it's the line going up through the hairline, which
Hmm.
would be from here
Right.
through
Third eye
to
to
the
crown. Yeah.
yeah. So
Wow. Yeah. You're getting a lot. I think this project resonated with other things that you have going on. I think it was a good
yeah,
opportunity to explore that. That's awesome.
yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank
Lots to
you.
think about. Lots to think about there, Coral, as well. Thank you for taking time to share. And this is why I love having everybody come on and share their data, because it's one thing for me as an analyst to interpret it, but to get your experience with it, I think is so valuable to hear, and it brings so much clarity to it. So thank you. All right, let's move on to Susan and to go through your highlights of your data, please.
Okay, I haven't done a presentation, but I could just maybe do the retasking, go through that quickly, do you think?
Sure.
Let's find it. Um, right. Okay, so do that. So you're seeing that?
I see your folder that says Hellfire Retask 1.
I haven't got it's not
You have
showing the,
you have to go out and come back, Susan.
Yes,
When
I would stop. Yeah, go ahead, Coral.
stop sharing, okay.
yeah, stop sharing and then share just the open document. And when you share the other documents, it's the same.
Okay, sorry about this. I don't
No worries.
We've all done it before.
It's doing something weird
Takes
to me
some
now.
getting used to.
Hold on. So,
And none of us have those awesome skills that Don has to do films and things before.
gosh.
Or that sultry voice that Don has as well.
So,
Well, while Susan's pulling up
Sorry about this,
her
guys.
data. No,
Is
no,
it
that's
sharing
fine.
it
Oh, it's up.
now?
Okay. Yeah, it's come up now. I was just going to give some filler, but we're good. Okay.
You need to
Okay.
make it bigger as well.
Oh, do I? Oh gosh, how do
Yeah,
I do
just
that?
zoom in. Just zoom on your
Um,
control
just gonna,
plus.
how's that?
Yeah,
Bigger?
go more.
Oh gosh, what do I
Yeah,
do
it's a
here?
better experience. Yeah,
There we go.
that's good.
Okay, so in the original session, and partway through it, I encountered this P-type energy, and that was what I was retasked on going back to. I also think in my first session, I got more of the idea of the person in a kind of meditative state in a natural environment in a wilderness. So going back, I got an unknown that looked like a life form but felt energetic, which was singular, specific, and not large. The idea of space there that was defined. And I hit upon these man-mades again. I kept getting these multiple kind of metallic man-mades, which felt they were kind of something to do with the technological or transmission or energy, but I didn't really explore them very much. That's because I went on to other things. And so then I moved to the retasking, which is the energy, which first of all felt kind of hovering. It was slightly energetic. It felt smooth. And originally it had this kind of horizontal aspect going to an onwards motion. And actually in the first session, it actually felt like it was coming out of my hand. So that's what I was queuing back into. And the experience of it, it felt really energetically nice. It was really gentle and it had a real softness and gentleness to it, which made me wonder if there was a feminine aspect to it.
Hmm.
And then I tried to move to the relationship between the energy and the actual target itself. And it was the idea of a fleeting presence and an apparition, which I thought was weird. And it's interesting, Don said about the ghost-like thing. And there
Yeah.
was a real sense of it passing through. And it was a specific type of energy that I've put like almost chi-like, an
Yeah.
energy of a specific thing, like a presence or a moving energy. I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was, but it was so specifically something. And it felt really, really nice. And the experience of it was really nice. And it created this wonderful sensation within the chest and heart area. And again, it made me wonder, was there a feminine aspect to it? Because that felt so gentle and
And
lovely.
right there, I mean, you nailed the target almost by naming it, with the chi energy. That
Yeah.
was perfect. Really nicely
Yeah.
done.
And so that's what I had for the moment. So I moved back to the recent gestalts that I got, and the unknown actually became a singular life form that wasn't large, that felt very present and felt male. Then I moved to the space air, and it felt really buzzy and light and diffuse and charged, and it was that sense of a charged, heightened atmosphere and surroundings. Then I moved to the man-made again, and again I was getting these kind of tubular, vertical, pole-like things that kind of felt connected, but again I don't know where that was going. But then it started helping me to see the landscape again. I saw this kind of vast landscape, which was
Hmm.
mountainous. It was very natural. It had a wilderness feel to it and lots of vegetation. And then I got a sense of an almost ephemeral energy moving across the environment. It was like this energy in motion, and it was horizontal to the surface, and it was forward moving and ongoing, like it was passing through it. And again, it was gentle and continuous. And then it started to feel like it was snaking through it, which it hadn't
Hmm.
been before, but it was kind of taking on a larger kind of aspect, moving across this wilderness landscape. So that's where I got to with that. And then it felt like within the energy there was consciousness and intelligence. I tried again to move to the actual target, and I got this very strong upward energetic movement with yellow orange colours, and it was luminous and radiant. So then I moved back to the retasking energy again, and the snaking movement became even more pronounced. It was like really dynamically snaking across this environment, and again, it was kind of like horizontal to it. And now it was feeling like it was purposeful. And then I moved to the location, and it was weird because what had been this kind of wilderness, mountainous environment with vegetation, suddenly it took on a completely different feel. And there were dark skies, and then suddenly it was rough and rocky. and it was mountainous, but it was greyish and dusty and powdery, and it was kind of empty and sparse. And there were dark skies and odd luminosity, and it went monochromatic, and it made me AOL in space. And actually, in the background, there was a sense of kind of origin being a kind of a thing behind it. So then I asked, to move to something I needed to view, and I actually got an image of a wheel turning, which then made me think of a small vehicular kind of, I guess a vehicle moving across this kind of monochromatic environment. Then I moved back to the actual energy and energetics of the retasking, and I was still getting the snaking movement, but then it was kind of taking form. It was like it was tubular, and it was really hard to describe because I was kind of looking down on it. It was like this forward-moving worm-shaped type thing. It was the only way I could describe it. And then I was AOLing on Mars at the same time. So it's curious to hear other people mention Mars and space, because I just thought, it didn't make sense to me until now, hearing other people's stuff. And then I tried to move the relationship between the energy and the target, and I got this weird sense that now it was feeling like there was something driving it, manoeuvring it as it was going forward, that it was being directed and guided. And there was a sense of travelling and transport with it. So then I tried to move to an interesting aspect of the target, and there was the idea that there might be some sort of life form or biological that was associated with the energy. And then I got the sensation of something like the life form or a bio being at the very front of this energy that was traversing. And it felt oddly not solid. And I was seeing it in a slightly animated way, and there was an odd radiance and luminosity to it. So it was literally, I was seeing a bio in motion and like an energetic stream that was forward moving very fast. And it was like they were tumbling around at the top of it. And there was a sense of this possibly being a delivery system. Then again, I tried to move to the actual target and describe, and it was something energetic, kind of formless. It was associated with a biological. It was something within an energetic carrier. It was something being transmitted, targeted. It was towards a goal. And I actually had plasma as well.
Wow.
And that was it. That was where I was kind of stuck with it. I thought, this is what I'm getting when I'm trying to get to the target with this. And so I actually stopped in case you wanted to retask me on something. That's kind of where
I
ended
think you
up
did a
with.
great job describing a very complex target. And I think, Susan, you were the most literal of the
Particularly.
experience. Like your data was the direct experience explained as the story is told, so to speak, which was, we see the division of effort among viewers. Everybody gets a different piece of it. And I think you had almost like the Rosetta Stone of this entire project here, of the basis of kind of what's happening as we look at it. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about plasma piece and the tubular structures. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie Donnie Darko with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Sure.
It's a fascinating movie. It gets in your head. It's about time travel and consciousness. But there's a scene, I just have a picture up of it, where he starts to see and understand. Really, he's looking at destiny and people's
Yes,
life paths,
yes,
and the plasma comes out in a tube structure and it
yes,
Yeah,
leads
yeah.
him. And then he's watching
Mm.
everybody else in his environment, the tubes coming out of their heart, and it pulls them, it directs them to where they're going as it snakes through.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
Oh,
we always think when people put things in certain movies like this that, okay, they've had some kind of spiritual experience, they've been passed on some kind of knowledge. A lot of times you find out, oh, they were using some kind of psychedelics.
mm,
So now getting this data and remembering this piece from that
mm.
movie, I think I would take that as some kind of correlation to someone's experience that they have perceived, which is very similar to what I think the team brought back here.
yeah.
So,
Mm.
But Susan, that was like a mind-blowingly awesome, your data there. That was an
yeah.
amazing session.
Well
Wow.
done.
Yeah. I mean, you even said chi. You
Yeah,
can't
Yeah.
get
it's
much
like,
closer. Yeah.
and
You know, it's described. I mean, chi is just the Chinese version of Reiki, of
Yeah.
ki. So, wow, that was an
yeah,
awesome by all of you. I mean, you
really
all had,
wow.
amazing data points on there. So, well done. Thank you for sharing, taking the time, number one, to work on these sessions because it takes a lot of time,
Mm,
and then to come on and share it. We do have several other viewers who are submitting sessions, and I'm going to share them. I'm going to put that in this point right here of our conversation. I'm going to add, I'm not sure everyone who's sending me a clip, but I think at least Darby and Daz will be submitting something. Henny possibly. I'm not sure if Dimmy's sending something as well, but we're going to put those here right now for all of you to review the other sessions by the viewers.
Hi there, hope you're well. I'm Daz Smith, and today I'm going to go through my Hellfire Remote Viewing sessions for target 0545. Okay, so I did this on 16th of April 2024, and I started off with some back pain, but you know, we push through these things. So initially I had this kind of energy, kind of downward spiral here. So spiral energy and movement. It feels like it comes from above downwards. It's microscopic and it has particles of light. And that's had a feeling here of enlightenment, and it felt a little bit like fairy dust, although I don't know what fairy dust looks like, but that's what it felt like. So here's me then trying to take this into a visual form in a bit more detail. So here's a spiral of energy movement downwards here, down into a life form down below. So this is a vertical shaft of iridescent white-blue light and energy, and it's descending and floating. It has a universal natural feel. It feels like love, and it feels like inspired creativity. Inside the middle here, it feels like it's a vacuum kind of effect. Gravity feels different, density feels different, and this is inside that energy. And it has these floating like dust particles, very particulate kind of like energy that is also mixed in with this. And it also had a big angelic feel to this as well. So I did an radiogram here. You can see the downwards movement here. So it's a direct forceful movement, and it feels like it's going across but downwards. And it has like an aggression action light to it. And I don't mean aggression in a bad way. I mean in the way that it's forcefully going down. It's a fast, swift, decisive movement and over distance, and it also moves over time. Here's another radiogram here showing the downwards motion here towards land. The land itself, or the location, is wide, it's outside, it's natural, and it feels like a natural location with vegetation, has a wide expanse, it's naturally quiet, and there's a landscape, and this feels like it might have happened at night. This feels like it's a past or old event. There also felt like there was a destructive element to this as well at some point. Again, looking at the energy coming down here, it's a downwards motion which is fast and direct. This also gave me a guess or an AOL here. An AOL was a guess in RV terms of a vehicle or object. I don't know if that's involved or not. But it felt like I had a chaotic end, like interference or waves of energy that felt a little bit like water because of the waves. The waves are like sonic or like frequencies, and this is kind of trying to show how these are expanding outwards. And they kind of radiate out from a core outwards, and it also has a hum or a reverb to this, a bit like a microwave feel to it. This felt like it's exotic, pulse-like, with waves of force or energy and sound, and it's pulsating and it's rhythmic and it's penetrating, a bit like if you're standing in front of a speaker and you can feel the bass reverberate into your heart and in your body. Has a strong feel of physically impacting and penetrating a life or a body. And it also had like a nuclear energy feel to this. It had a very kind of weird sparkly energy feeling to it. This all felt very esoteric, very high energy, or very advanced energy, and it was all about energy manipulation. Levels of different energies were being used. I also had a visual here, and I see a large, smooth, domed, curved, slicked, metallic surface which was concave. This felt like it was buzzing, glowing, and alive on its surface, and if you looked at it in the sky, it would look like a star. This is just some general stage 2 data here. So sounds were hum, fizzle, and whisperers. It was hot in temperatures. Textures were smooth, slick, layered, grainy, and metallic. Colors here, black, white, and blue. A strong feeling of electricity to do with this target, and a smell of ozone. Weird kind of esoteric stuff. From above, someone was watching. And there was electricity everywhere. The whole thing was very static electricity. We were in a wide open location here, open space, but there was a curved structure, and it felt strangely good, this whole target. This is what I felt that I saw up high here. I got an AOL, or a guess here, of a UAP, and I wrote here, this feels like there's an 8-foot tall, vibrating, energy shifting, angelic type, non-physical life form here. They are tall, male and female. They're watching at a distance, and they vibrate funny. And this gave me the feeling that they were dead, or they weren't physical beings. They're not quite in our dimension funny, and their movements are fast and blurred, and they feel a bit like visitors. So call this ETs, call this whatever you want, but there are these non-physical beings, maybe in some kind of non-physical craft as well. But yeah, we're talking about 8-foot tall, vibrating, energy shifting, angelic type, non-physical life forms that are involved at the target, but they're actually up high looking down upon. It felt like there were 3 primarily shadow lives there, 2 male and 1 female. They look cloaked, or look like they're wearing shawls or long flowing tendrils of energy. Everything was very moving and very fluid in what they were doing. They had energy vibrations. They felt like it emanated from them. They were very kind of dark grey, shadow-like in appearance, but pulsating. I tried to draw them here, and one of them felt like he was reaching out with a hand with some kind of, like, globe-like object hovering above his hand. Had a very ancient feel to this, and their look felt a little bit like the ring wraiths in the Lord of the Rings film, but I didn't feel anything ominous from these people. Felt good stuff coming from them. So this had such a weird mix of data so far, it feels not quite right somehow. As if I'm catching glimpses of different scenarios or something. Very old school esoteric feel this, manipulated old school magic feel, esoteric arts. But it also feels like very advanced sound vibration waves and energy frequencies. And this involved harmonics and sonics. And this was a past event. And I was a little confused by what I was seeing here with the 2 different diverse technologies there. I also had this very strange visual that I couldn't quite draw, but it was almost like a line drawing, a 3D drawing of some kind of like tetrahedron, tesseract, flower of life type symbology there. Okay, so I stopped there, and then I think I did a second RV session yet, so I was told to go back in and get more. So here I am again with the energy. This was a few days later, on 18th of April. Again, straight down with this energy thing, so a cyclic down trajectory of energy and movement, and it was plume-like because it felt like it was like expanding energy outwards in waves. Again, I tried to draw this again, like before. It's a downwards motion, a descent from above, and you can see it spiraling down here, this energy, and it's effervescent energy with sparkles of light. It's microscopic particles in motion, cyclically down patterns, and they're bouncing, buzzing, and radiating, and it's a wave-like energy which is exotic. This is looking at it again from the inside. The density inside the cone of energy is different. It's lighter or non-existent, so there doesn't feel like there was any kind of any kind of density at all. They're very, like, no gravity or something. There feels like a gravity distortion, like it's being displaced, moved or squeezed sideways. And I tried to draw that with this. So here's the energy coming downwards, and it feels like the actual gravity moves to the sides. Weird. This felt very artificially created, and there may be a movement connection to this, a levitating effect. This feels like it's a communication wave. It's esoteric because it's hard for me to fully understand in what I'm looking at here. The energy affects a human life, and I asked how, and it's spiritually changing and enhancing a life form at a DNA level. It's like the body soaks up the particles like a light shower, and it's mind altering, but this not be its primary function. It feels like it's technology, movement, communication, and interaction all in one thing, and it feels like space, time, gravity, and dimensions are all being manipulated in this energy. It has a purposeful interaction with a life, and they're like studying, they're looking at an approach, and this has a direct influence on the life, and it's changing this life over time. It's generational changes, and this gave me the guess here of an abductee because it felt like higher kind of non-physical beings were doing this to a earthbound life and changing them over time. So here's another drawing here. Felt like a life form here was in this energy flow, and it had like a sucking, gliding feel, a transporting kind of movement feel to this energy, which was oscillating here. It had less weight and density to it, and the vibrations inside this energy were different, and they were high pitched. So there's this like life form here being soaked in all this energy. And I wrote here, when you're in the field, your hairs stand up, your nerves prickle, you get pins and needles, your body vibrates differently, and it's faster, higher, and it's at a different pitch, and it becomes less dense and solid. And this feels like a quantum shift, and it also feels like I felt some kind of idea of teleportation could be used with this as well. So that's it. So that's my RV on this target. I hope you like that. I hope like what we're doing here with Hellfire. Take care. Namaste, and I'll see you next time.
Hi everyone, Darby Miller with the Hellfire Remote Viewing Club, and today I'm going over the single session I did for Dennis's target 8671-0545. I did this session on April 13th of this year, and it's been about since sometime in April when I last looked at the session, so as I go through it, I'm going to be refreshing in my mind what was actually in the session as I share it with you. So let's go ahead and take a look at the session that I did for Dennis's target. All right, I'm going to be going through the session on my iPad. I use an extended remote viewing type of approach when doing this session for Dennis. So I was in a light trance state with my eyes closed, and I recorded what I was experiencing into an audio recorder, and then later transcribed both the descriptions and the visuals onto my iPad. In general, I felt like I was not on Earth during the session, that I was on some type of other planetary body or planet, and there were man-made objects on this planetary body. One of the first things I was aware of was I was in front of a man-made object or structure, and it had triangular lines or shapes. It felt metallic and cold, seemed like it was man-made. I had an AOL of a metal ramp that I was walking up onto. I prompted myself to move to the most helpful element for the target. I write, I move into the darkness in front of me that is framed by the triangular shapes, moving inward from the ramp. I see a flash of an image as if I'm looking down upon a symmetrical 5 or 6-pointed shape with semicircular objects near on the points. They gave the impression of being pod-like. This feels hard, metallic, dense. Lead comes to mind. It smells like lead. I then prompt myself to move to these semicircular objects to get a better look. I write that they feel plastic-like. The upper half appears to be illuminated, the lower half is not. There is a semicircular shape in the middle of the object that reminds me of a button or an eye or a sensor. I then prompted myself to move inside the semicircular object. I write, this feels bright inside. It feels like I'm in a fluid, AOL an egg or something to do with DNA, breeding, embryos. This tastes sweet, feels soft on the inside. I see what look like tiny blood vessels. If someone were to ask me what my function was, I would say to begin. I probe or ask myself, how does this relate to the target? I see a shape that looks like it's composed of irregular semicircular sections. I probe it. It feels pliable on the outside, dark colored. Again, I embody the object, which is something that I do often using this approach. I hear something about a souvenir, and then I have what I call a free flow data dump. So it's just a bunch of thoughts or concepts or words coming in fairly quickly. Cold, frostbite, calories, heat, temperature, lights, multiple light bulb or bowling pin shaped objects. I think these are inside the object. Breeding, pods, wormhole, heat, pressure, translucent gold, Goldilocks, cold. I look up and see what looks like a galaxy, see what looks like a light bulb that is turned off, timing, a belt, vortex, wormhole. And at this point during the session, I became aware that I had been reversing the target numbers at some point, so I corrected that. And then I gave myself a movement prompt to stand in front of the target. And what you're looking at there is what I would call, from my HRVG training, a site sketch. So it's incorporating different elements of this session around this stage of the session. I see a reddish-hued landscape. There are curved red shapes coming up from the ground. In front of this, there is a vertical white-shaped object that I will AOL as a man-made rocket. I can reach my hands into the soil, but it feels different than I'm used to, very soft and dark. This reminds me of what I would imagine volcanic soil feeling like. It smells like sulfur. The light in the sky has a red sheen, AOL Mars. And I was not sure if the top of the structure here had a point. I drew it with a point, but part of me felt like as I was drawing it that might not be right. I taste the curved shape reddish objects, which I'm referencing are right there. They taste sweet. They remind me of melted sugar or melted glass, something crystallized. So I'm probing this rocket-shaped object here. It's large, painted, metallic, projections from the bottom, a ramp. The surface has raised areas, so it's not perfectly smooth. There are raised areas of what remind me of a port or something like that. The part I'm feeling feels like it's covered in a thin, dark material. It reminds me of a solar panel or something thin and pliable. This feels like technology, but I wouldn't say it feels super high tech. It's easy to imagine a human building this. I'm drawn to a bright orange light on the horizon. It could be the sun or something else. It's not overwhelmingly bright, but it does draw my attention. I have the impression of more than one antenna or radar-like objects on the man-made rocket-like object. This reminds me of a robotic probe that we would send to another planet or moon. My attention is drawn to the landscape around me. This area looks barren, feels hard, it's reddish. I see bright areas that look like lava to me, bright orange. I put my face in it. It feels hot, tastes metallic. I have the impression it would light up the night. I see something that looks like sparks coming off of it. Maybe that's sparks from an eruption. It seems like it's nighttime now, and I see the stars above. It feels cold, barren, hard, rough, salty. So again, this is sort of a drawing here referencing what I was experiencing. And then I have myself, I probe and give myself a movement command rather to go to the most helpful element for the target as tasked by Dennis. And so I went somewhere else at this point. I see a shiny, reflective, circular or semicircular object. Reminds me of a pane of glass or a mirror. Very reflective, feels cool, smells metallic, tastes metallic, feels hard, but like it could be fragile. So it's a semicircular, a circular object, sort of in the landscape. So I kind of walked around it to get a better idea what I was looking at. It's not flat. It appears to be a concave shape on the other side. I feel like I'm now underground. In the act of looking at the other side of the circular reflective object, I am in the reddish hard ground and approaching the object from that perspective. The material of the object from this angle is a little more rough, like it's made of slightly corroded metal. When I bang it, it feels like it's making a gonging sound, like it's made of metal, but it's hollow. From this perspective, this object seems rather large. It smells salty. When I taste it, I hear the word lead. It tastes tangy, kind of like when you put your tongue on a 9-volt battery. So basically, what we're looking at here is something that's almost embedded in the ground and is hollow. So at this point, I believe I went inside this object. I feel like I'm in a hollow space. I see a line that is perhaps near the center of the object, It goes towards the front of the object where I was initially, and then to the back of the object. This line appears to be glowing. It appears to have ribs or sections to it. The ribs might be circular like bracket-like objects that are holding this line, which appears to be some type of cord. There's a thin membrane on the outside, and then on the inside, there are multiple cords or wires. AOL, this is like a bundle of fiber optic wires and a thin outer membrane being held up by brackets that are attached to something else. So I embody this wire, like this bundle of wire-like object. I hear kind of like blibbity bloopity sounds, like something like how I would imagine data might sound being transmitted, almost like sort of like a modem or something. I'm aware of a loud humming sound, and I AOL that as noise from electronic power or energy, free flow data dump. So again, a bunch of words or data that's coming to me quickly, static configurations, echoes, energy, what looks like a gyroscope turned on its side with flames or flame-like radiation coming off of it. I'm feeling physically overstimulated in my solar plexus, so I step away from embodying the object and probing this object at this point. So because I was feeling a little bit overstimulated, perhaps because I was standing inside an electrical like cord or data transmission cord of some type, I gave myself a movement command to stand 1,000 feet away from the target. I write I'm on a rocky surface. I can put my hand on the soil somewhat, although it's fairly hard and rocky, tastes salty, and feels chalky, hard, warm. I feel a warm breeze or heat. I feel an area that could be sand or sand-like. I see stars overhead. When I look to my right, I see what appears to be a large number of structures. It's bright there. And uh, I see what I assume are many lights. AOL, it's a city with a dome encompassing it or enclosing it. To my left, I see what I assume to be the structure I was in, but perhaps not. There are multiple vertical shaped structures that appear wide at the top, then narrowing in the middle, and then widening at the bottom, but narrow overall. So here's a drawing of sort of the nighttime view of what I was looking at here. I briefly see the flash of what looks like the eyes of a fly, meaning the insect of that shape anyway. And I'm wrapping up the session at this point. I write, as I am wrapping up the session, I am giving some general impressions. I feel like I am not on Earth. I feel like I'm on another planetary body or a moon of some type. The landscape is reddish, rocky, barren, and appears to have some lava-like volcanic activity. There are man-made structures here. Regarding my subjective impressions of the target, I find it moderately interesting. I don't know that I'm supposed to be here. Whatever is going on here is completely removed from my daily life and experience as I know it. This is like some other civilization or group. I'm not saying the structures were built by non-humans, however. When I ask who or what built the structures, I see what look like a series of brain or larva-like shapes that are connected together, and there is a central membrane coming off of it. I believe this is a metaphorical image that is communicating several group minds working together, so there isn't just one group involved in what I'm looking at. It is several that are working together as one. End of session. All right, guys, that is my session for Dennis's target. I'm looking forward to taking a look at the other viewer sessions to see if and where there are any correlations with my data to give it more credence. But for now, I look forward to spending some time with you at our next Hellfire Remote Viewing target. Until then, bye for now.
Hi, I'm Demi. I'm a remote viewer, and today I'm going to have a presentation, a short presentation over the target 8671-0545 of was tasked by Dennis Napi II, our friend and colleague from Hellfire Remote Viewing Club. The task was to describe the Reiki energy as it affects Master Mikao Usui, on March 1922 on Mount Karuma, Japan. The tasking was that the viewer will describe the experience of Mikao Usui as he first received or interacted with Reiki energy at the end of his 21-day fast on Mount Karuma, Japan in March 1922. The subtasks were to describe the Reiki energy to include its function, purpose, and intelligence, describe the impact of the energy on Mikao Usui, and what can the viewer learn from the energy. So I will change to my first, not my first, my second session, because on this target I was having a lot of noise, trouble period, I would say. So let's go further. In my second session, because this first one has nothing to add to the point, I've got something like from space, land, something going down, um, flickering, popping up multiple luminous, white, bright, cool, dry outside up there, and an well as mirage or mirror. And there are two ways, going down and from down to up. Um, it was above, round, flashy, white, blue, horizontal in a flash. I meant in a flash with an A, but during remote session sometimes we commit errors. So I've tried the second time the ideogram, and I've got natural, energetic, water. We know that the Mikao Shui was standing under the water, the waterfalls from there when did his retreat, 21 retreat fasting. There are a lot of sparkles. It was happening sudden in a flash, again flash with an E, not with an A. It was popping up, it was reflecting like mirroring, it was answering. I got an well as praying, like a storyteller or a fiction, and very, very strong came the impression of what represents Chris Bledsoe, exactly Chris Bledsoe, and his experiences, his downloads, let's say. I've gotten S2 sensors like quiet, outside noisy, cricket, noisy outside, nightish time, temperature was cool, it was above, blurry, fuzzy. I've got a I've got, let's say, like 0 point energy or concentrated energy, all from nothing, coming from nothing, happening from nothing somehow. And my AI on this was that I was frightened. I've got a plasma like density coming down and in a dome shaped type of representation. And then I've switched, I felt the need of drawing this kind of energy coming down, like beaming out, connected. Um, but it somehow it felt virtual, like maybe what was happening was only not in a physical way, maybe, but in a subdimensional way, which was not seeing with usual eyes, with usual sight. It was a point of connection and reflection. When I moved to the optimum position, I saw a point here and coming down like projections, kind of energies from point outside. It was fuzzy, whitish, transparent, misty, and I've got the idea of observer. So probably the observer was Mikao Ushui there, and all the energy coming down from up, or seeming like was coming down from up. I don't know. When I move to the focus of the target, I've got a powerful energy coming down, concentrated. It was something round, circle, mystic, whitish, It was like smoky rings. It was above ground. It was dimensional, so it was like physical in a way, like a donut shaped sense, like altering surroundings, popping up from nothing. I kept having that. When I moved in the middle, I've got a lot of power or energy configuration, like it was sucking up type of energy, like in a black hole, tubular hollow. I've got an LL as the Large Hadron Collider. When I came to the middle of the target, it was green down, soft, dim luminescence, darkish. Up above, I've gotten a sense of Turkey, Iran, or something from there, from Asia. It was popping something from up, from above. It was vibrating, it was trembling. I've got an AOL as an UFO. And this concentrated energy coming up and sucking also, like mixing inside, like a mushroom kind of configuration, which was rotating, sparkling, flickering in the eye or in the mind of Mikaushi, or in real objective reality. I don't know. I've gotten now as like a DMT experience, which can happen when you're fasting enough. Your mind it's troubled and start to hallucinate, not like real hallucinate, start to go in other dimension, because this can do the fasting over the body, or on a human body. And it felt mystic, like personal, as like each is having its own pattern or display or experience. Again, my owl as a grip, as Chris Bledsoe coming down. I literally draw like an UFO, something above, which was flat round disc like going down and speedy. And then I stopped with this target, with this session. The other session, I think they probably were much noisier. When I can get to the other one to see what to take from it. So let's see. Here I've got water and man-made, and again an USO as an AOL. It was wide open, turbulent, and deep. Probably I felt the water falling down from there. And again, energy, land, water. I felt it was gray, silvery, made solid, thick, flat, constrained, truncular, wet, humid, sea smell, coverage, concentric. I don't know if it was something that was happening there. I didn't see yet other sessions, so I don't know what to do with this, but whatever. Let's go further. And then I've got this kind of waterish and this stone rocky like type of environment. Um, Down was sandy, but it was also metallic or high with high density. It felt like it was in an old era. Okay, what more I've got? Then I was drifting in another place probably. And then I've got S2 perception as muffled sounds, wavy sounds, low frequency, fluid, solid. Probably I've got the place where it's happened there, where Mikao Usui had his grateful, amazing experience, because I understand he went there to die, but he came back full of life, and started Reiki, starting to teach Reiki soon after, and to do Reiki, of course. What else? When I moved to the front of the target again, I got this thing which was strange, edgy, hard, vertical, and felt damage. Okay, let's move further because here it's about a plane or something, and I don't think it was really noisy. But it's a short time during this session when I've had this vision, like some eyes from up there looking down to a person which felt it was ill. And when I probed to see if it's relevant for the target, I've answered myself no. So I didn't went more on that. So then I've got like what? Something different, not interesting. So again, I've got the energy concentrated, huge strike directly, and it felt like splitted. Um, the nature of energy felt like it was a thunder strike. It was pointed and directed and in a zigzag way type of configuration, concentrated. And I really felt a pain in the chest when trying to see what was there. And I was intrigued by that. I felt the person there would be frightened if he would have been there. It felt like an electric charge, powerful, energetic beam. For me, it was a man made, not a person, because as you know, I dismissed my idea of somebody being there. So that was my second session. And when I moved to the focus of the interest on this, on my whiteboard, I've got an energy which was kind of circular but also pointing somewhere, like a blowing energy which was wavy, rippled around. When I moved to the focus, it felt like it was throwing this energy, speeding down, falling on a curvy trajectory. It felt nasty. I was curious. It was like ice snow with mountain hills around. And I think that's all from what I've got to this target. The target was absolutely awesome, and I'm sorry I didn't do what was I supposed to do for real. So that's it. Thank you guys, and thank you Dennis for the target. Bye.
Welcome back. And we're going to wrap
Yay.
this up now. So
Okay.
technology and editing is a great thing. So I'd like to thank all of you. Does anybody have any final thoughts before we go ahead and end this discussion? All right.
Yeah, it was really, as I said when I was talking, it's a real privilege to be able to have the opportunity to view things like this.
Yeah.
It really does lend levels of your own consciousness. It's part of your transformation and evolution. So thank you for the beautiful work you did, Dennis, and for the wonderful
My pleasure.
target.
My pleasure. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of growth that happens. That's why I'm drawn to this group that we're in because we get to go out and we get to explore. And we all have our own paths that we're on. But I think these targets are a connecting piece, allowing us to collectively contribute and really bring value to everybody that consumes the work that we do, and also to go out on our own and explore. I think what we need comes through for these targets as well. So it's been a lot of fun.
Well
So
said.
again,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your efforts. And that's going to wrap it up for Dr. Usui and Reiki Energy. So on behalf of Don, Susan, Coral, and the rest of the Hellfire Remote Viewing Club, I'm Dennis Nappy II. Thanks for watching.